Good evening and welcome. For over 2 years, the world has watched the brutal conflict in Ukraine unfold, marked by unimaginable human suffering and profound geopolitical shifts. Now, as discussions about potential peace talks resurface, a critical question looms. Are these genuine attempts at resolution or a calculated maneuver, perhaps the biggest deception yet in this protracted war? Tonight, we delve deep into the complexities behind these proposals. We'll examine the historical context, the true motivations of the belligerents, and the strategic implications for the global order. It's crucial to look beyond the headlines and understand the intricate dance of diplomacy and military strategy. This isn't just about headlines, it's about the future of a sovereign nation and the stability of Europe. Join us as we uncover why caution, and perhaps even cynicism, is warranted when it comes to the current discourse around peace in Ukraine.
To understand the present, we must look to the past. This isn't the first time peace talks have been floated or even formalized in this conflict. The most significant historical precedent lies in the Minsk agreements of 2014 and 2015. These accords, brokered to end the fighting in the Donbas region, ultimately failed to prevent the full-scale invasion. Russia consistently violated the ceasefire, supported separatists, and never fulfilled its obligations, while Ukraine argued Russia never intended to comply. The key takeaway from Minsk is this: Russia has a documented history of using such agreements not as a path to peace, but as a strategic pause or a means to legitimize its territorial grabs and influence. This track record makes any new peace talks immediately suspect, raising concerns that they might simply be a repetition of past deceptions. So, if Russia isn't genuinely seeking peace, what is its strategic objective in pushing for or engaging in these talks? It's crucial to understand that Russia's goals extend far beyond merely securing territory. Fundamentally, Moscow aims to dismantle Ukraine's sovereignty, prevent its integration into Western alliances like NATO and the EU, and reassert its sphere of influence over former Soviet states. Peace talks, from their perspective, can serve multiple functions. They can buy time for military regrouping, exploit divisions among Western allies, or create an illusion of reasonableness while continuing to prosecute the war. Ultimately, Russia seeks a peace on its own terms, one that cements its gains and cripples Ukraine's independent future, rather than a genuine, equitable resolution based on international law. Understanding this fundamental objective is key to deciphering any peace proposal.
On the other side of the negotiating table, Ukraine's position is equally firm, and for very valid reasons. Kyiv cannot and will not compromise on its core sovereignty and territorial integrity. This means no surrender of occupied territories, including Crimea and the Donbas regions. Furthermore, Ukraine's aspiration for security guarantees and integration into Western structures like NATO and the EU is a non-negotiable path chosen by its people. President Zelensky has repeatedly stated that any peace deal must respect these fundamental principles. For Ukraine, engaging in talks that do not address these red lines would be tantamount to capitulation, undermining its very existence as a sovereign state. They understand that a peace without these assurances would merely be a temporary ceasefire, paving the way for future aggression. Their demands are not maximalist, they are existential.
The impact of any peace talks extends far beyond Russia and Ukraine, reverberating across the international stage. Western allies, particularly NATO and EU members, face a delicate balancing act. On one hand, there's a desire for an end to the conflict and its destabilizing effects on the global economy and security. On the other, there's a profound understanding that a weak peace deal, one that rewards Russian aggression, would set a dangerous precedent for international law and future conflicts. Western unity in supporting Ukraine has been a cornerstone of the response to the invasion, but cracks can appear when discussions about concessions begin. China and other non-aligned nations also play their own complex roles, with varying degrees of influence and interest. The stakes are immense, preserving the international rules-based order versus succumbing to power politics. Any peace talks are a test of global resolve.
So, how exactly might these peace talks be a deception? Primarily, they serve as a strategic tool for Russia to achieve military objectives without actual combat. By feigning interest in negotiations, Russia can manipulate global public opinion, portraying itself as a reasonable actor while simultaneously blaming Ukraine or the West for any failures. This also creates a narrative of war fatigue, pressuring Ukraine's allies to reduce aid. Critically, peace talks can be used to consolidate territorial gains, freezing the conflict along current front lines and effectively legitimizing occupation. It buys time for Russian forces to regroup, rearm, and prepare for future offensives, a tactic seen repeatedly in history. This isn't about finding common ground. It's about leveraging diplomatic channels to secure military and political advantages. The real danger lies in mistaking a tactical pause for genuine reconciliation.
The true measure of any peace talks often lies in the reality on the ground, and currently, that reality is grim. Despite rhetoric, active fighting continues relentlessly across multiple fronts. Russia is still pursuing its military objectives, launching missile strikes and ground assaults. Ukraine, in turn, is steadfastly defending its territory and preparing for counteroffensives. Neither side shows clear signs of being militarily defeated or willing to accept unfavorable terms. If anything, the current peace talks often emerge during periods when one side is seeking an advantage or a breather. It's not a sign of military exhaustion leading to a desire for genuine compromise, but rather a strategic calculation amidst ongoing combat. Without a significant shift in military fortunes or a genuine willingness to compromise on core demands, any peace talks remain detached from the brutal realities of the battlefield.
How do Ukraine's Western allies navigate these calls for peace, especially when they might be a deception? The West largely understands Russia's history of using peace talks as a tactic. Therefore, there's a strong emphasis on nothing about Ukraine without Ukraine, ensuring that Kyiv is central to any discussions and that its red lines are respected. However, domestic pressures within Western nations, coupled with economic strains and the looming threat of escalation, can create a nuanced dynamic. Some voices genuinely push for a rapid end to the conflict, sometimes overlooking the long-term implications of a bad deal. Western leaders must maintain a united front, continue military and financial aid, and prepare for the possibility that peace talks are designed to weaken their resolve, rather than achieve lasting peace. It's a tightrope walk between diplomatic engagement and firm support for sovereignty.
As we conclude, the narrative around peace talks in the Ukraine war demands extreme vigilance. While the yearning for peace is universal, we must distinguish between genuine efforts and strategic deceptions. Russia's track record, its unwavering maximalist goals, and the brutal realities on the battlefield all suggest that current overtures may be less about genuine resolution and more about gaining a strategic advantage. For Ukraine, compromising on its sovereignty and territorial integrity is not an option, it's an existential threat. For the West, maintaining unity and unwavering support for Ukraine's self-determination is crucial to upholding international law. The path to a just and lasting peace in Ukraine will only come when Russia genuinely accepts Ukraine's sovereignty and territorial integrity, not through a deceptive diplomatic charade. We must remain skeptical, informed, and resolute. Thank you for joining us.